everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Arboyd and I'm sitting here with Eric Niehe from Aluf Crystal. How's it going, dude?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. As you all can see, we got some cool crystal on our table here, and yeah, man. Tell me about this. I mean, there's so much. There got to be some backstory to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you mean backstory in terms of the art itself, as
How you got into
how I got into it?
Yeah, how you
Oh
got
yeah,
into this?
absolutely. So it was very serendipitous, to be honest with you. I was living in Bali at the time, about a year and a half ago. I own part of a restaurant in Bali, and I was living there for about 6 months. And during my time there, that's when COVID really started, and it was obviously, we all know the story. COVID got worse and worse, and in like the depths of COVID for Bali there, I mean, I can't really complain because it was a beautiful place to be at the time, but I was in a situation where I felt kind of trapped, and I needed to find like a creative outlet. And I was just watching random YouTube videos, as we do,
Yeah.
go down the little rabbit hole, right? And randomly came up a video of a piece kind of like this, but bigger, and it was just spinning. And just that right then, immediately, I knew that's what I'm going to do.
It's crazy. It's cool.
Yeah, that moment.
So how did you start doing it? Like it doesn't look like it's something you just have the materials to do.
Yeah, no, it took a lot of research, and it's not something that everyone can do or everyone would even want to do. But yeah, it took many hours of research, and then on top of that, then you have to decide, okay, now that I've done the research, is this something I really want to jump into? But that wasn't even a doubt in my mind.
Oh, wow.
I just jumped right into it, and I just kept researching and researching and researching, found this supplier, this supplier, this supplier, and kept building my knowledge of the materials, the scientific, like even like the characteristics of the material itself, so that I could understand it on a deep level.
That's crazy. That's cool. So like before that, did you ever have any connection to this stuff? Like did you when you were a kid, nothing, like never
I mean, that's a toughie, because I have always been drawn to geometric shapes. I've always been drawn to patterns. I've always been drawn to beauty, art, and light. And honestly, I never in my wildest dreams even thought I would be an artist, let alone this type of artist. So if you were to tell me 3 years ago that this is what I would be doing, I would say, fuck off.
Well, you could tell you have passion about this. Like I could see it while you talk about it, and just you told me that you were a chef before, right?
Yeah.
That is, like you said, you weren't an artist. That's art. No matter what.
Yeah.
That is like, it's if you're good at it and you pride yourself on what you're doing and you're plating, that is art. So it's not that far out of the realm. Are you still have a huge passion for that, or you just kind of needed something new?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I do still have a huge passion for that, but not on a commercial scale. So I mean, I'm always learning. There's never a point in my life where I think, oh, I've learned enough cooking, or oh, I've learned enough about this. I've learned enough about the English language. It never ends for me, and I just sponge in all of the information as fast as possible, basically.
That's cool. What look, so I'm new to this. I've never really known anything about crystal making, or what makes you different. Like what is, like I don't know if they can see it. I might zoom in and edit it to show how like cool these are. Take some shots and like for after this, like close-ups.
Yeah.
But the different kinds of like centers to them, the different like colors and everything. Like how do you create this? Like what? How do you come up with these ideas?
Yeah. Well, to be 100% honest, I'll use an analogy to link it to my previous career, right? So when I was chef, while I'm making a dish from scratch, I don't even follow a recipe. I take materials that are there, and I just make sure that they're the right materials, that top quality materials, and then it just literally flows out of me. Just I'm not saying that as in uh, it flows out of me because I innately knew it at birth. I'm saying that it flies out of me because of my experiences that I've had, seeing patterns, and they just materialize. Somehow they materialize in my mind, and they just come out through my hands and straight into the art.
That's really cool. Who's your typical clientele?
Well, I make all different sizes, right? So I make pendants as well. I make little pokeballs. I make
Nice.
they're just fun things here and there. I like to play around, right? And that's kind of the theme of my art. It's celebrating the fun of life, right? It's not taking life too seriously.
Yeah. You showed me your cool little promotional video you did, and just like I've seen people use light and crystal, and just like how cool it can look. And I mean, you showed me a video. It looks like you said it was at a festival,
Yeah,
and just how that it almost gives like a natural laser vibe
yeah, yeah.
when light shines into it, and in different directions. It's like it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So like when you saw this and you decided I'm gonna do this, what made you like just not just try to kind of do it on the side? Because you said it's only been a year and a half, right?
Not even.
Not even. So
It's coming up on a year.
but this is where you're like you're jumping in the deep end with this, right?
100%, yeah.
And how'd you know this? Like how'd you know?
I didn't know right off the bat. Like I said, it was a side hobby, and then it turned into a side hustle. And then I'm not going to use the word obsession, but the passion grew, and it grew kind of organically to a point where people wanted to buy the stuff. So uh, they were buying it from me so I could invest more into equipment. I could invest more into uh, materials. I could invest more into branding. So it really has been a really beautiful organic experience right from the beginning.
Nice. Were you doing it out in Bali? You said before? Or?
No, I didn't even start it in Bali. That was just the moment that I'm
Okay.
talking about. The moment that I knew. I didn't actually start it till I returned back into Canada, which was, I mean, it was tough to get back into
Yeah.
Canada. I basically got on the last flight before flights just stopped.
Yeah.
And that flight almost didn't run because there was a volcano that went off on the island next to us. And
Wow.
I almost didn't even get off the island. So I was almost trapped there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't be trapped there forever, but I'm just saying, I'm happy I got out when I did, and I was able to just slowly progress. I mean, it was slow for me, but when you look at the progression of, it's been a year, and I have started from nothing, and now I can do this. So
Yeah. You're very like I talked to you a little bit beforehand, and sounds like you're very well traveled. And I find that people that are well traveled have a sense of like just an artistic value of how different the world is from one another, but
yeah,
they're very similar at the same thing at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah.
Is this something that's big? Like different places that you've traveled, like is this big in Bali?
No, not at all. This is basically this is it's a pretty new art form. The best artists in the world that are doing this. There's a couple in the States, there's one in Japan, and there's me,
Wow,
and that's it.
that's insane.
So right now, and to be 100% honest, they are the people at the top. They hold their secrets close to their chest for the most part, and they don't want the advancement of this art form. And I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I want to see this in every home on the planet.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think it's a new generational thing. Like it's
Yeah,
we're finding it here with the co-working space and everything is people are willing to help one another and work in the same industries as competition. They don't look at it as that there's enough like there's enough people out there that can buy your stuff. If you're good at what you do,
Yeah.
you don't think about the competition. You actually support them. And actually, it's proven in many different industries that competition actually helps. If you don't have any, it doesn't. It actually is a bad thing for your company. So where these people are holding this stuff near to their heart, and you're on the opposite spectrum, that's something I've noticed because I'm interviewing a ton of business owners and stuff. They're not as cutthroat, and they want to share what they're passionate about and get more people. If you find more people that want to do this, that's cool. You can it becomes a bigger industry. You can do trade shows of this. You can it becomes huge, and it makes people. I like. It's nice to see people help each other out.
Yeah,
it's not so business isn't that cutthroat, like just cutthroat like it used to be.
It has been, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have to be. Honestly, the more you synergistically work together, the better it is on both sides. Like I'm sure there have been times in the past when competition had to be fierce, but we're not living like that anymore, and I don't believe that we need to be acting like that anymore.
Yeah, we don't, and I think COVID actually had a lot to do with it. What I'm noticing, like since we literally got the keys to this place February 2020, so a month before everything hit the fan.
Oh fuck!
And yeah, so it was like, and we had to like adapt and kind of know that. And there's a few co-working spaces in the Tri-Cities that one actually went out of business, but like instantly we weren't. Like in the past, we've seen it. We did our homework. They don't like when other co-working spaces open up in the area. Obviously, that's like any other business. But since COVID, people are like, no, like there's going to be like our co-working space isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
But theirs isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
So if we have somebody come in here and they're not, they want more corporate structure or something.
Then you send them to them.
Send them that. Yeah, and it's never been like that in the past. You're like, no, I just want this person, even though if they're not good for this place.
Yeah.
I want their money. And it's not that anymore. And people are just more appreciative of basic, I think, and just I don't know. It's crazy. I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have told me like how they used to be in business and how they were trained and how they're totally doing it differently now.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel the same way. Like I was trained to be cutthroat, and I was cutthroat, and to a certain level I enjoyed being cutthroat, and then I realized that doesn't need to be the case. And obviously I'm in a different industry now, and I'm in an industry that is a very subjective industry, right? It's more about for me, it's touching back on you talking about the competition aspect. It's like, for me, art, it is a competition, but it's a healthy competition, right? It's like people pushing each other to get better and get better and get better. And I see something that you did, and I'm like, I'm not going to copy that. I'm going to use it as inspiration for myself to do something even better, find something deep inside me to make something better. And that's how I truly look at the art game, to a point where I want to teach people how to start. So if they get better than me, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just on the completely opposite side of the spectrum from these other glass artists in this field, because they just don't want any progression whatsoever. They just want to be the end all be all, and I just want everyone to have this.
Yeah,
so it's different.
What they want is they want basic float, like coasting, and that's, I'll make this. I don't spread the knowledge of how to do this, so I can put out stuff that's not I'm not passionate about. It's like it's like having a mold of something and just like produce.
Exactly.
But once you have that competition, or just people that are working off of your stuff and making it better than yours, it just drives you to learn and adapt and become better as well, instead of this like stalemate where you're just and it's literally every industry. And I think it's always been in the past about like schooling, what degree you have on your freaking wall, all this stuff. And I think we're slowly starting to go in the direction of the best person at it, and there's like, I come from a music background. One of my teachers actually made the mistake of saying this, but it was like kind of a positive to the class, but it was not a positive to some of the people that left the course afterwards. Was this course, the degree you get from this means nothing if you're a musician. You could be a 12-year-old kid in your basement. If you're creating the greatest stuff in the world, music labels, production companies, they do not care what your degree says if you're coming out with amazing material. Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah, our course will kind of show you things, but once you get this thing on your wall, it's not like under other industries that go, okay, you got a degree from this school for this, you're allowed in. You don't know if they got a C. You don't know if they got a C minus or they just passed. You hire them based on a piece of paper. This kind of stuff, art has always been based on what you do. They don't give a shit about your background. They don't give a shit if you're a dropout. They don't give a shit about anything.
Your race, your age, your anything,
And that's slowly making its way into other fields. Obviously, there's doctors and stuff. You can't just watch a YouTube video and do. But there is certain industries that I think are slowly getting to that more like passionate people that are willing to learn, adapt on the fly. I come from a music production background. Now I edit for a living, and it's not music I'm editing. That's all self-taught.
You went this way, and it was like,
and it works together if you are willing to change and learn. And this is something totally different from what you were doing, but you're still expressing yourself in an artistic way. Like I said, you were a chef, and if you're a passionate chef, you could see it on plates. The difference between somebody working as a chef as a job to someone who takes it serious as a career, right?
Exactly.
Here's just a flip the switch, but like favorite dish you used to make or still make at home.
I mean, there's a bunch.
But,
I make a bangin' pad thai. There's a pasta I always go back to that it's a tomato sauce pasta, but the tomato sauce also has sherry vinegar, lemon zest, Kalamata olives, and it's like basil, oregano. It's fantastic. That's one of my favorites. I mean, there's too many to count. Those are the two that stand out, so I'll go with that.
Obviously, if they stand out, there's something there. I could tell like you love doing that still, but you need something. You need to change. I think people need to change and kind of just test themselves more. It's that comfort level of past generation, like my parents' generation, not dogging them at all, but it's the get this job. I don't care if I hate it. If it has benefits, it has all this stuff. I don't care if I hate my life and want to off myself. I do it for this reason because this is what I'm told I need and want.
And get married early. I don't care if you don't like her. Not gonna do that.
No, it's legit. 20 the new or like 30 is the new 20. Like it's just like it's people are finally. I'm in my mid 30s now, and it's like people where our parents' generations were at 35 years old are totally different to where we're at. It's not just cost of living, but it's a lot to do with just not accepting that we need to fit this mold of exactly what this structure, school, good career, hate it, who cares, have a family young, don't stick through it even if you hate your significant other,
stop having
maybe
fun.
Get a divorce when the kid's 10, like this weird just like it's brutal. And I think it's just finally people are just being themselves and true to themselves and don't give a shit what other people think of them. And it's beautiful. Like and here we're seeing people of all aspects of life just getting along and working together because they can. Like there's no reason why you with your crystal art can't be working with other businesses, coming up with like almost like art for their businesses, putting it around offices. Like there's so many things that people are finally thinking outside the box with.
Absolutely.
So with this, how do people get a hold of you to buy some of the stuff, and what makes each piece significantly different to you? Like
well, like I said, these are all so far. These are all one-offs. I mean, actually, one of them, a good friend of mine in the States, wanted one of these, but I didn't want to give him this one, so I made him another one. But
Nice.
other than that, these are all one-offs, but they're all designs that I can make again. So it's not like it's the last one, but it is nice. I mean, I can make them again, but each one, no matter what you do, is going to be slightly different than the first one. So they are all unique in their own way, because I'm telling you, when you're creating these things, these weigh 3 kilograms. Like, feel this in your hand.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And you're grinding it on a 3,000 RPM wheel for 30 hours. Now imagine the impact on your shoulders and your wrists and your finger joints for that amount of time, for this weight, right?
Yeah.
So that is part of what makes it unique, because no one, I'm not going to say no one, very few people have the knowledge to do this, and then even fewer of those people have the willingness to put their body through that. Right?
Yeah.
So it's these aren't just like beautiful individual works of art, but they're also kind of like, it's blood, sweat, and tears, and sometimes I do mean blood.
You're working on a grinder. Understandable.
Yeah, exactly.
How much blood you've probably shined off a few of these pieces before?
1 or 2, not all of them.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, that's even like that's something I wanted to ask: is it handmade or is it done by a machine? The fact that it's handmade, that is absolutely stunning. Yeah. Especially like that's how you're getting the smoothness, is just by grinding it.
You grind it through different stages of grits, like sandpaper. Like when you're in woodworking class in high school, you go from lower grit, because there's less pieces of sand per inch, right? So it's lower grit, so it's going to scratch it rough. So first I cut it on a diamond wheel tile saw, and then from there it's like super rough. Then you take it to the grinder, and then you have a 60 grit disc that you put on. It's a magnetic disc that you put on, and that's when you start it. So you're trying to get out all of the deep scratches that the saw made. And so once you get all the deep scratches out, then you take that disc off and you put on an 80 grit disc, and then you get all the deep scratches out that the 60 grit left. And then from the 80, you go to 140, and then you go to 275, and then you go to 325, and then you go to 600. And then some people do 1200, but I just skip 1200 and go straight to a polish, which the polish is a foam pad. And you have a wet compound that you have to spray on the pad that it's a slight abrasive, so it's not just the foam, because just the foam wouldn't polish it, right? So the solution that you put on it is the thing that finally polishes it.
Oh, wow.
And the polishing takes the longest, like many hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just to know how much work goes into this. That's why, like, it's just like, I feel like art, to people that don't understand it, they never think about how much work goes into it. Yeah. As someone who edits, they like see a final project that was a 5-minute video and think that's how long it takes you to edit it. Not the case. This is like, after you're telling me like how you do it, it seems very tedious, and you have to love doing it. I've done a lot of when I was trying to pay the bills. When I was the industries I worked in were very physical, and it sucks. It really sucks. And there were certain jobs that it was hard, but you didn't mind doing it because it was either like it tested you a little bit. You learn from it. Yeah. But for you to bleed for this is it's definitely something that like people should appreciate when you're putting that much work into works of art for them, as well as yourself. I mean, it's probably good mentally. And
you learn as well, right? So I mean, I've bled a couple times, but I learned from both of those times. And now it's just like in the kitchen. At the first, when I was starting out, I would cut myself every like 2 weeks, and then I went from that to cutting myself every month, and then I went from that to cutting myself every 6 months, and then in the last like 3 years I was there, I didn't cut myself once. Right. And that was not because I wasn't holding a knife. I was still cutting more than the average chef. Now, yeah, exactly what you're saying here. Like the end for you, the vision in your mind, the end has to justify the means.
Yeah.
And the means is very, very labor intensive and hard on your body. But the end for me justifies the means, and just the look on people's faces when they see them, that is, or I've given a lot of these just to my friends for as gifts, and just the look on their faces and the happiness that they have, that is why I do this.
That's cool. Do you take custom orders for this stuff?
Yep, yeah, I've done several custom orders, some big ones. I've done 3 this size,
Yeah.
And then a bunch of smaller ones that are custom orders. A lot, mainly from the States, actually.
Yeah. Do they ask you to put like certain things inside of them?
For the most part, they have let me just do what I do, but I give them like a color palette that they can choose from, and then I ask them about like the final shape that they're looking for, because there are a lot of like very specific little details at the end. These look like cubes, but when you look very closely, every side is different.
Yeah.
Right. So this side is curved. This side has a small bevel. It's all obviously sitting on a large bevel.
Yeah.
Right. I've made them so that for the most part, other than this one, I haven't finished this one yet, to be honest. But I've made them so that for the most part, they can stand on a corner, so that they have like a kind of a presentation side.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's interesting. This one, I just want you to be a little careful with it. With the heat wave that happened, it actually exploded. So I don't know if you can see that with the camera can see that, but honestly.
Like kind of near like the bubbles at the top there? Yeah.
That's what I came in one night and it was fine. The next night, it was in the same spot on the shelf and it fucking exploded.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously that was heat that we've never seen before, but that actually makes a kind of cool piece to it. Like it's a story to the art.
Yeah.
And you're gonna leave it like that, right?
No, I'm building on it now.
You're building on it?
Yeah.
I think it's cool. That was that was something.
That was different.
And you traveled the world, and I know people from very hot climate places. My wife's from Ontario, which always complains about like the just humidity in Toronto during the summers, getting up to like 35 a lot, maybe 40. But when you're 48 in Lytton or whatever it was, like that's hotter than here than Dubai.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
In Canada, which is a country known for being too cold.
Yeah. So, have you like lived a lot of different places in the world?
I lived in Toronto for 3 months. I lived in Chicago for 3 months, and Washington D.C. for 3 months. I did a 8-month trip through Central and South America. So I started in Nicaragua, and then I went to Costa Rica, and then Panama, and then took a boat from Panama to Cartagena in Colombia, and then I traveled south into Ecuador, and then flew to the Galapagos Islands.
Wow.
And then from the Galapagos Islands, I went straight from 0 meters above sea level to Cusco, Peru, which is 4,000 meters. I don't know if you want to fact check that, but I think it's at least 4,000 meters above sea level, and the effect on your body was like, it was something. And then from there, from Peru, I spent a whole month in Peru, and then I traveled south to Bolivia and saw the salt flats there, which are absolutely beautiful, and Lake Titicaca, which is the largest navigable lake in South America, which was beautiful. It's a beautiful island in the middle of the lake. And then from Bolivia, went down into Chile and traveled the whole distance down Chile to their capital city in Santiago. In Santiago, I rented a camper van and drove, over the course of 21 days, I drove 6,300 kilometers in that camper van from Santiago to the tip of Tierra del Fuego, which is the point that you need to embark from to get to the South Pole. So I was literally I have a picture of the sign that it says this is the most southern point of South America.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful experience. From there, I traveled up the coast of sorry, not the coast, the border between Argentina and Chile, which is a beautiful border because there's a bunch of glaciers and mountains and beautiful cities. And then from there, I traveled east to Buenos Aires, and then from there I went to Uruguay. So all in all, it was an 8-month trip.
Nice.
And then, but before that, I was in Southeast Asia. So I did. I mean, it would be too long of a conversation if I started doing the whole Southeast Asia thing. Yeah. But I also did a lot of Europe because my father is from the Netherlands, and I actually have a Dutch passport. So I've been there, I think, 5 or 6 times.
Oh wow, nice. That's lucky. I'm half Italian. Apparently, my family has property in Italy that nobody goes to. It just sits there empty, and it's because my Italian family that lives out here never wants to go back for some reason. Sad. I've never gone out there, but traveling's that's a little bit harder to have a kid now, but it's something I like.
It's on your list.
Oh, I mean, I'd love to. South America, especially, like, because people, like, you talk about glaciers and stuff. That's not the idea. Like, that's not what people think about South America. They think hot, hot, hot.
Yeah.
Don't think glaciers. So, but literally, like you said, the most southern part, closest to Antarctica. Yeah. Like, that's huge. Like, it's got to be pretty frigid down there at points, right? Yeah, like, it's and people don't think that. It's actually, it's one of the things that irks me about humans is just how localized they are and how they don't know anything about the rest of the world,
right? And don't try to learn about it. Like the lack of knowledge isn't a problem. Like that's not an issue, but the lack of caring to learn, that for me, that is a problem. Like the apathy that you don't care to learn about it, and then you think that your area of the world is the most important area of the world. That to me is just completely incomprehensible.
Oh yeah, and we're very guilty of it in North America.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's mostly our American media influence on even Canadians. Like I talk about it quite a bit. Is growing up in Canada as a kid, how much actual Canadian stuff did we see? It was mostly American media we were watching.
Yep.
And like I remember as a kid hating living in Canada because all I saw was how cool Los Angeles or New York was.
Yeah.
And then finally, once I got older, I'm like, you know what? It's not as cool as they really portrayed it to be.
Yeah, because they made it look cool. And then it's like, no, that's just, it's like those Instagram girls where it's like, these are my good angles. But they're like, this is me all the time. Right? That's not the case. That's not actually them. They actually weigh 50 pounds more. It's just the angle that they're looking at, and they're wearing a lot of makeup. And that's what the states were doing with their media.
100%. Still doing it. They're doing it harder than ever now.
Yeah.
How does someone get in contact with you to do a nice, crazy, awesome piece of art like this for them?
Yeah, well, I have an email. It's just alufcrystalart@gmail.com. So ALUF crystalart@gmail.com. Or you can go onto my website, alufcrystal.com. You can check out my Instagram. It's just Aluf Crystal. It's some pretty exciting stuff that's already on there, and even more exciting stuff coming up. So
yeah, so how long on average does one piece take you?
It literally just depends on the size, as you can imagine. So the bigger pieces, the longest that one piece has taken me was 6 days.
Wow.
But that's not 6 days of like 8 hours a day. That's like in total, I would say 32 hours over the course of 6 days.
Wow.
So it is like a part-time job to get that done, but then once it's done, then it's done, right?
Yeah.
And there's the main artist that's doing this in the States. This piece here, this size piece that he makes, sells for $10,000 US.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not yet charging that, but I'm getting close to the point where I'm flying to Miami next week, and I'm meeting some really influential artists, and I'm getting to the point where I've realized the value of this stuff because it is very unique, right?
Yeah.
I used to think, oh, I should just market to everybody, but that's not the case. Like, I want it to be available for everyone, but I'm going to be marketing to a different demographic.
Yeah. People kind of underestimate how well you can do with just concentrating on a niche.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to do everything and kind of take on everything and try to kind of cater to everyone. But when you kind of stick to a niche product or something that like people can get into slowly and stuff, it's a great thing because you take over a market that you're basically adding your name to a very minimal like market of like distribution, but people want different stuff. Those people that are, like I said, if they're comfortable making this stuff and they're not challenging themselves, those people that are really into this are going to stop buying from them. This is kind of, like,
exactly.
So now you got this and you're creating new and you're putting effort and your creative spin on it and passion into it.
Yeah.
It's you can build a niche. I'm an ex-pro wrestler. That's a niche in itself, like fake fighting.
Yeah.
But what I find, if you do a sports podcast, talk about all sports and throw a little bit of wrestling in there, you do not get the audience that if you just stick to just wrestling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, dude, I think you have tons of, like, I see your passion and the guts for you to jump out of like probably a very secure like life that you had before, just doing what you were doing and challenging yourself into something drastically new, not just like you think like, if you're gonna start making something else, I'm gonna make my own knives, or
I did make my own knives.
Dude, that's probably how you started on like the making of stuff, right? That's really cool, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I think we should wrap this up, but maybe I'll take some closer up shots of this to show everybody at the end of this, as well as do a little package to show how to get in contact with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you want to put a video, if you want me to do any more cool stuff added to our podcast here, you just send it my way.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming in, man. This is really cool.
Yeah.
I interview people from like just businessy people, real estate agents, but the artists and the musicians and stuff. That's who I really kind of connect with. So I love doing these kinds of podcasts, especially when it's something unique and different. So I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, and I appreciated all of your questions. You definitely you brought everything that I wanted to say out. So I mean, I think you're very good at your job.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I try to. You learn. I do this most like every week. I do a few a week now.
Yeah.
What I find with interviewers, the problem is either they're so scripted or they just don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's either robotic or it's not enough.
Yeah. And so I hate the thinking of the next question instead of listening to the answer you just asked about.
Yeah.
So I want to go in completely numb to it and not know shit pretty much and just learn organic and actually ask questions I want to know, like I want to know the answers to.
Yeah.
So dude, I appreciate this. It was really fun. I'll definitely throw all your information out there because I want people to see this. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But this is Eric Niehe. Okay.
Yes, you nailed it.
From Aluf Crystal, and this has been another edition of PoCommunity. Thank you for watching, and thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.